Hey, everybody, welcome to the debut edition of the GRADEx Show on Earth. That's right, it's the GRADEx Show on Earth. Hi, everybody, I'm James Cybulski alongside the man, the myth, the legend, the founder of GRADEx Media. I'm talking about Fab Del Rio. And Fab, it's funny how things happen in life because years ago, here we were hanging out at Lester B. Pearson in the East End of Ottawa, growing up, going to high school together, and things come full circle as here we are collecting cards all these moons ago, and we're doing it here, but we're getting paid for it this time around, buddy. It's a business. We're into business now.
James, man, really good to see you. I'm so excited about this. This project is a real honor for me to. Look, I'm already getting worked up.
Yeah.
It's an honor for me that you're joining the project and being our coach, being our quarterback in this podcast venture. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to having some fun and sharing some what do they say, infotainment, with all the
Yeah,
collectors out
exactly. That's
there.
it.
And
Exactly.
yeah, that's what we want to do, man. And share some old stories and, you know, just talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of collecting. And, we got my boy Honus over here keeping an eye on us. So should be fun.
Well, look, we've got, I think for anybody who's joining us right now, and whether you're following along on social media or listening to us in podcast form, or if you're following along from social media standpoints on Instagram or on X at Great X Media, let me tell you, you have got an absolute treasure of information here with Fab, who has been in the business and in the industry for well over 30 years, and going back to the days that we were into collecting as well. And I was in and out. One of my first jobs, I worked at a sports card shop in Ottawa. That that
Awesome.
is an episode unto itself. That
Yeah,
adventure and
really.
experience here, Fab. It came and went about as quick as the card boom of the early 1990s, if you remember that one.
Hmm.
And but you stayed with it. You've seen the highs, you've seen the lows, you see the volatility, and at the same time also been able to ride the wave and to see what's hot, what's not. And there's clearly a huge market in the industry, and here we are now. But one of the things I want to talk about with Great X, and for a lot of people who are just tuning in maybe for the first time and haven't checked out the website before at Great X Media, let's talk about first, and I want to get to Collectibles You, but what is Great X Media for someone who is walking down the street and stumbled across this for the very first time, or just doom scrolling and said, wow, okay, I need to follow in here?
Well, GRADEx is kind of a combination of three things. One of it is one big piece is educating collectors and sharing information and experiences that the team at GRADEx has had over the years. Another part is doing reports on some of the nitty gritty aspects of collecting, like grading and tracking some of the biggest transactions in history on trading cards and collectibles. And then we
And we've
also
got some
have,
of those this week.
oh my gosh, right? Yeah,
Look,
yeah, no kidding.
but I digress.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
no, I think
as you were.
everyone's heard about
Yes, yeah.
it. And the third part is what we have called a market report, which is basically a collection of data and information about some of the key cards and collectibles out there. And it's to give people a really good snapshot of what collecting is all about and help them in beginning their journey in collecting, because everyone takes their own path, whether it's they have a personal collection of a particular player or a particular team, or maybe they're after those iconic rookies or whatever. People
Mhm.
can collect whatever they want. And but there's some falls to avoid and some good practices to get into and to do things the right way. Even in collecting, going to card shows, there's an etiquette on making a deal and all that sort of thing. So it's really to inform people and help share some of the knowledge that we have.
Yeah, so we've also learned that probably not a great investment putting the best card on the back of a bike spoke.
We've all been there, right?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned, right? And
Lessons
but
learned. 7980 O-Pee-Chee hockey set. Maybe there were a few cards that were put on the back of that spoke many
Mhm.
moons ago. So let's talk about, one thing that people probably don't realize on top of this, the fact that you've not only worked in the collectibles industry for as long as you've had, you are also a university professor when it comes to speaking on the collectibles industry, my friend. You want to share people a little bit about that and the birth of what Collectibles U is all about as an extension of GRADEx?
Yeah, so as a college professor,
Mm.
which seems a bit
Kind of a big
strange.
deal, buddy. Kind of a big deal.
Well, it's really cool. The opportunity came up over COVID, believe it or not, for a course to design and teach a course called The Business of Sports Collectibles. And it was an online course that was being hosted by Northern College, and but it was available to all students across Ontario. And so over the course of about a year to 18 months, we were putting together the outline, the content of the course, and it touches collecting and the business of sports collectibles. There's a lot of really interesting business theory that can be taught, whether supply and demand, logistics, marketing. There's just so much you can get into, and it's kind of a fun, practical, real life way of learning these principles. And I kept that in mind, putting together the course, and got to meet some awesome students from literally around the world. And it was great. Some people were new to collecting, some were already into collecting, either casually or right into it. And again, we shared some great stories and information. And, we had some students that said, I want to get into this. I want to get into buying and selling. And, it was really great. And so over the course of several semesters and several years, I'm starting to realize that this type of information should be available to everybody. There's some basics in collecting that everyone should have before they get into it, because collecting is very expensive these days. It's very complicated. It's not like going to the corner store like it was for us. 50 cents a pack, and there was one set per sport per year.
Yeah.
It's very different now, right, with
Well,
all
and
the
and
sports.
Fab, it's easy to get fleeced too. Let's face it, right? And
Sure.
and I think there's a lot of people that would more than happily take advantage of you. And I certainly know as a 16-year-old, I coughed up a couple of nice cards for something that looked nice, new, and shiny that was
Hmm.
sold to me by a collector. Like, oh no, this is
This is
rare.
gold. These are
This
going to
is
be bricks of
yeah,
gold.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh no, this is the first one that's ever been printed. I remember getting my hands on a Muhammad Ali card from a boxing set in
Oh yeah.
91, 92, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
being told like, oh, this is essentially the rookie card for Ali. Well, had I had a little more of a digital footprint or a few more Beckett guides, recognizing
Hmm.
that there were
Hmm.
Panini cards and stickers that were made back in the 1960s,
Right.
there might have been, a Cassius Clay rookie that I was not aware of. But this
Right.
was certainly sold to me as a bar of gold. So yeah,
That's
and I
right.
get it.
And
Yeah. So I mean, the etiquette does matter, or at least knowing what the rules of engagement are.
and that's a big part of it too, is we obviously have way more information these days. Like back when we were young, the dealers were the source of information, the card
Mhm.
shop owners.
Yeah.
And we had a magazine, right? That basically when we got it in our hands, the information was already 30 days old. But,
At minimum.
right, right, because this was all being printed in Dallas. So by the time it arrived in Ontario, who knows how long it had been. But that's the key with all of this, is the information part, and helping people with good information, and also presenting things in a way where they can figure things out. Like they can find these pockets in collecting. I keep going back to, non-sports and entertainment cards. They've always been kind of the redheaded stepchild of collecting in terms of value and prestige and grading and all this. But, we like to use the phrase Superman can't blow out his elbow. right? His Superman's legacy is set. And it's not like a case where an athlete can do something really rotten, get injured, and then his market disappears. The entertainment side of things is a growing part of the market, and but you have to do your homework. What is the Superman rookie? What for that matter, what's Tony the Tiger's rookie?
Yeah,
There's
great
lots of
call.
sets that can be explored, and some of it is international, and but the scarcity is nuts, especially when it comes to grading. So there's just so much to explore. And the cool part is that eventually, logic wins, logic comes through, right? There's a pocket of the market where vintage football, when you think about the greats of all time in football, you
Hmm.
compare their rookie cards, their key cards with the greats in baseball, the greats in basketball, and for whatever reason, they're way below, a Mickey Mantle
Yeah.
or a Honus Wagner. Baseball has this great prestige, but why isn't football right there? Considering how popular the sport is. So, like I said, eventually common sense, shines through, but it takes a while, right? And we always talk about in collecting the difference between OPT and tops. At minimum, you know, O-Pee-Chee was 10% the production run of tops, right? Just based on the population. But some people say that the early O-Pee-Chee sets, especially in baseball, are something like 2 to 5% of the production run of tops. Like the O-Pee-Chee Nolan Ryan rookie is impossible to find compared to the tops. But it's taken decades for that to sit with people. And so it's these kind of things that, we want collectors to kind of discover their own pockets of the market and, have fun with it because, not everybody knows everything. There isn't someone that knows all of it. And, there's so much to discover and so much to research. And, you know, let's just have fun and share stories together.
Well, that's that's exactly it. And you think of, from a pop culture extension, what does Bruce Lee's rookie card look like? Maybe from
Right.
the Green Hornet television series,
Yes.
right? And a limited card
Yes.
run of the 60s. And,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's funny, like, going down, we all have our quirks, right? We all
Yeah.
have our quirks. For me, I'm an old school professional wrestling fan. One of the things I
Mm.
always loved to do was the football players that became pro wrestlers. So the guys who had rookie cards. So, Ernie Ladd from the 1960s, or Wahoo McDaniel, or one that has become one of the rare, hard to find cards in Canadian football. And there's a great story on the GRADEx website about this, is Brian Pillman, who played
Right.
briefly in Calgary and then got connected with the Hart family, flying Brian Pillman, the loose cannon, and the rest, as they say, is history. But those certain stories right along the way, and
Oh.
just what some people find value. And now, for
Mm-hmm.
some people listening to this, they're like, Cybulski, you bozo, what are you doing collecting those, right? But I have a collection of old school wrestling, the football players and the John Layfield, who played in the World Football League from the early 90s when they had that one run of cards back then. But then on the flip side, it's what other people see value in or what they want to collect. I mean, I've got the extensive collection of Gary Carter cards from his playing career, because that
That's
was my
awesome.
guy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
some people may see no value in that, but it's what we also put our own personal sentimental attachment. And so there's a lot of different ways you can go with this,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And you mentioned Gary Carter. I have a good friend of mine who is collecting the full run of Topps Gary Carter cards from his rookie card to, I think it was
Two.
92
Yep.
Topps traded with the Dodgers, I think is
Yep.
his last one. And he
Well, he
wants
went
them
back to
all.
the Ex. He went back to the Expos for his final year, but I think his final card was with the Dodgers. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And he wants them all in PSA nines. Now, at first
Mm.
he was thinking, well, shouldn't I do PSA eights since he wore number eight? But
Oh yeah.
right. But then I said, but mint, nine mint just kind of goes a little better. And so that's his project, and that's awesome, right? That's kind of one of his side projects in collecting. And there's no way to collect. There's a saying, collect what you love, and you'll spend your money wisely. Even if the value of something goes down, you love the card, you love the player, great. You're done fine with it.
You do you, exactly. You do you. No, I
Exactly.
mean it's it's certain moments. Like it's funny as we record this. It's the middle of Black History Month. I had a huge fascination to this day. I still love a lot of the blaxploitation films of the early
Mm.
1970s, and the influence that the cultural influence that they had, not just on so many, but like including myself. And so, I've got some of those Pop Century signed. I've got a
Ah,
Foxy Brown, Pam Grier signed card, a Richard Roundtree, the OG John Shaft. I've got a rookie card from Fred the Hammer Williamson, Black Caesar, also a former hard-hitting defensive back in the National Football League. So,
awesome.
those are some of the cards
Yep.
that have drawn to me, or a
Hmm.
signed card from Tommy Smith, and a Panini track rookie card from John Carlos from and here they were, raising their fist in 1968 in Mexico City. So those are certain, again, like just weaving down and like, man, Cybulski, you are all over the place. But again, it's just you do you and where you
That
want to go. So, we'll have some
absolutely,
fun.
yeah, and having a little bit of focus in your collection is good. For
Hmm.
myself, I've tried to keep my collection down to 150 to 200 key cards. And
Okay.
it's kind of a form of discipline where I'm always kind of reviewing my collection. If I want to add a new one, I have to make a decision on something I already
Ooh,
own. And
okay.
how much do you really love this thing? And a lot of it is, for space issues. And,
Yeah.
as you get
This is why I have a
older,
hard time buying the full sets now, right? Like, I keep wrestling with the idea of do I pull the trigger on that 89 score NFL series fab and
yeah,
where
yeah,
do you put it
that
all?
89 score, that's
It's
one of
not
the classics.
prohibitive, but it's just
Nope.
okay. What's it gonna
Space.
do? It's
Where is it
it's
going to
gonna
go?
stay in a box.
Mm, yeah. So
We understand
I
each other.
know that's part of the story, and you have a nice corner of the house here where you've got some great images, and that's how collectibles. Part of it should be displayed and shared, and it's
Well, as
tough
you
when
can see
you
over my shoulder,
look
there's
at that.
Gary Cook.
There's the kid, and a
There's
boy.
the kid
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
beautiful.
So
And
yeah,
that too, you like magazine collecting has exploded in the last 4 to 5 years. And a lot of it comes down to grading because we all bought Sports Illustrated. We all read the heck out of them, and most of them disappeared. And nice conditioned, especially newsstand copies it's unbelievable what
yeah.
kind of money they bring
Without
now.
somebody's address
Right,
stuck on the
right.
front, right?
That's right. The newsstand didn't have the address, so
Yeah.
those were even harder to get. And there's just so much to dive into with collecting, and I try to keep myself disciplined because there's so much cool stuff. Like you talk
Hmm.
about wrestling, and I have a handful of decent wrestling cards, but there is such a market for it, such a community. They're so intense, and it's great. This stuff is great, and the way people appreciate photography, and you know trying to discover what is actually the first card, or the first magazine cover, because with magazines, that's the rookie card is first cover, right? Especially first cover Sports Illustrated. That is the peak. That is what you're looking for. So there's so much fun stuff to get into with collecting, and whatever space you have, whatever budget you have, there's lots of fun to be had. And the community part is awesome. The way it connects kids with their parents, with Tim Hortons, and going for a cup of coffee turns into a special trip when there's a chance to buy a couple packs of cards as well, right? And that whole program has been unbelievable for Canadian collecting. And yeah, there's just so much to explore. And I think the challenge we're going to have is being long-winded. I'm guilty of that, and I think I'm already guilty of it in our first episode here. But
Well, trust me,
you know,
I've been known to talk the paint off a wall myself here. So, well, look, this is the maiden voyage, so we've got so much to kind of so many layers to unpack, and we can do these, and thankfully, we can do this each and every week. So, let's why don't you say we dive into a few of the hot button issues over the course of the past week and kind of making the news. There's been plenty of it and no
a
shortage
big
of it.
week. Yeah, it's a
But
big
we'll
week.
pick. Yeah, it was a huge week, literally and figuratively. But quickly, first things first. You had a huge start to the week with a visit over at the Collectors Super Show, and let's talk about the action. It looked packed.
It was a special one. So it was actually a first time show, but the first time where the Sport Card Expo meets CSC. So Sports Card Expo is the big show in Toronto that everybody talks about. The expo that's one in the spring, one in the fall. That's been running for probably 30 years. And CSC is a group. They do a collection of shows with more of a focus on trading card games, Pokemon, entertainment, cosplay, this sort of fun stuff. And the two came together, and that's why they call it the Super Show. And the Canadian market especially is basically hockey and Pokemon are the two focuses. And so that's why this show made sense. So there was a bit of apprehension. People didn't really know what it was going to be like, but overall it went extremely well. Like the crowds, even on the Friday evening, which is typically the lightest day, the the lineup was around the building to get in. The Saturday was nuts. Apparently, it was an hour waiting line to get in. It was excellent, yeah, and having two different parts of the hobby, trading card games and sports cards together. It was really neat the way it came together. But now so many shops and dealers are have a foot in both. You know, it's an important part of collecting. You know, having Pokemon cards in your shop will drive a lot of traffic, and it's just become such a huge part of collecting. And like I said, overall the show was excellent. The crowds were great. We had a small sponsorship with local Tim Hortons, and so we had coffee and Timbits available, and we were giving away some prizes of the Tim Hortons Team Canada hockey card packs, and it went over great. You know, we did a little spin the
Did
wheel.
anybody pull a Sid? Did anybody pull one of those golden goals?
The golden goal, Sidney Crosby, not at our booth, but they're coming. You know, we're hearing reports now that four have been pulled from packs, four out of the 10. And one of the what is coming out is one individual apparently has sold one. He didn't want to give up who the buyer was, and he didn't want to mention the price, but he did confirm to me that he had turned down several offers in the $17,000 range. And so clearly, I'm thinking he sold it for more, but pretty remarkable for, a Sidney Crosby card to sell for that kind of money. But it truly is a special card. Like, might as well get into it now. That Tim Hortons set, why the card is so special, it's the first time that a card manufacturer was able to use the photo of Sidney Crosby's golden goal because that photo belongs to the Olympics.
To the
And
IOC, to
unless
the
the I
International Olympic Committee, and this is why
exactly
we never see. I mean, if you see Olympic footage anywhere on social media, it is illegal. And
right.
chances are if somebody finds it, it's going to get taken down pretty quick with a cease and desist. Like the Olympics don't play around, and that's why you never
Right.
see, if you're watching, it doesn't matter what sport you're watching, but how many
Hmm.
times do you see Olympic basketball highlights? How often do you
Never.
see Olympic highlights in hockey? Like they
Hmm.
are rare, like honestly, we're just going through the last few weeks of the Olympics. How many times have they shown the Sidney Crosby golden goal?
Right. Right. And you usually get those stills with the pan over that make it look like it's video, but that's the difference with this set is the set. So Upper Deck produced the set. with Tim Hortons, but the licensing behind it is the Canadian Olympic Committee, Hockey Canada, the NHLPA, the NHL Alumni Association. I think I'm missing one. So it's the ultimate license set. They covered all parts of this event. But it's the Canadian Olympic Committee licensing is what allows them to use the photo of Sidney Crosby scoring the golden goal. And they use that photo on the golden goal autograph, limited to 10 copies. It's kind of one of those masterpiece perfect cards. And that's why everyone's after it. And that's really cool because so much of it, it's the photo, it's the licensing and the photo that makes it so special. We've seen plenty of Sidney Crosby autographs with a Team Canada jersey numbered out of 10. No big deal, but it's that photo. And that's awesome that, the photography itself, the aesthetic of the card is really what's pushing it. That's amazing.
I mean, it's just that iconic, the fist pump, open
Hmm.
arms wide open. Am I
You
am I
can
right
hear
in
it. You
saying
can
that
hear him screaming out of the
uh,
card,
you can
honestly.
hear him
Like if
yell,
you
"Iggy, Iggy"? Um,
That's right. That's right.
is correct me if I'm wrong, but am I seeing that one seller's asking 25,000 right now for one?
Well, it could be
Yeah,
that I haven't confirmed that.
yeah.
So I was in contact with the gentleman that has sold one, and he received offers, like I said, in the $17,000 range. But there very well could be now someone has a $25,000 price up there. I believe
But that speaks to
for
the value. But what we're
oh
talking,
yeah,
like we're talking north of
oh
$10,000.
yeah,
We're talking north of $15,000 in terms of what the
mm-hmm,
open market is hitting for one of
mm-hmm,
these 10 cards that are out there. Four we know have been pulled, and
right.
six are either
Maybe still out there,
they may have all been pulled, or maybe they haven't been
right?
pulled yet. So
Because collectors can be very private, right? I know if I pulled that from a pack, I probably wouldn't put it on social media. I'd be very happy to send it in because these are all redemption cards, by the way. So they didn't actually put the cards in there because they want them to be in truly as best condition as possible. And one thing people should know is the expiry on those redemptions, I believe, is the end of the calendar year. So
hmm.
it's not something you want to sit on. You don't want to sit on a bunch of packs of these Tim Horton cards because if by some chance you have a redemption in there and we flip over to 2027, you're kind of out of luck. So yeah, it's one of those products. It's meant to be opened. It's meant to be fun, inexpensive, quick rip with lots of great inserts in there. Like they really, really nailed it this year, and everyone is talking about it that way. They got everything. They kind of made a perfect set.
Well, there you go. We've just how Canadiana of us, beyond just talking about Tim Hortons, Timbits, and Sidney Crosby's golden goal card that is worth a lot of Timbits. Put it that way right now. And so,
Well put. It's
well,
worth a lot of
yeah,
Timbits.
four we know pulled as Fab just saying. But the other big the industrial earthquake from this past week is the Pokemon card. And as you talked about how the growth and how that industry really since COVID has just absolutely exploded. I mean, there was a market for it prior to that, but really has gone into another stratosphere. But Logan Paul, the social media
Mm.
sensation you love to hate, or wrestling's great villain, as it all comes back to wrestling. He sells a Pokemon card, all-time sales story, $16.5 million US, $22.6 million Canadian. The card featured Pikachu for you Pokemon fans, like probably the most iconic Pokemon, holding a pen and feather sweeper. And the art is also very rare because it was done by Atsuko Nishida, who was the graphic artist who designed a number of the popular Pokemon figures, including Pikachu. And so it was believed only 40 of them were ever printed here, Fab. And look at what we're looking at here. I
Awesome.
didn't think I would see a day that Pikachu would be more valuable than a Mickey Mantle 1952 rookie. Nevertheless, this is the world we are
Here we are.
in 2026.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting piece. The story of the card, if if I got this right, is those cards were part of a contest. So the Pokemon Company at the time, or maybe it was just Nintendo. The Pokemon Company is built from three companies. I'm going to get it wrong, but that's not important. There was an art contest, and the winners of this contest received that card.
Mhm.
So it's believed, I've heard, the minimum 39 copies. The highest number I've heard is 41. So, especially in the Pokemon world, a card limited to 40 copies, give or take. This particular one has nice holographic foil. It's Pikachu. It's from 1998, the first year that Pokemon came to North America. Um, it is the only PSA 10 that's been graded. Surprisingly enough, there's several nines that are about to hit the auction block. I wonder why. But yeah, it's considered the masterpiece, the true. I hate to use the word holy grail, but it is the card in Pokemon collecting. And there's, like you said, Logan Paul, love him or hate him, the guy knows how to sell stuff. And he sold that card through Golden Auctions, and they promoted the heck out of it. And, it got millions of eyeballs, and
The
people were
Paul brothers
watching.
don't do stuff small, do they?
No, they don't. And I don't think they do stuff for free either.
No, no, no,
These
no.
guys know how to
No,
raise a
they
buck.
may know how to make money. Yeah, that's for sure. So
But
wild.
really big deal. And it's funny, on the website, we have a story. It's called Tracking the Most Valuable Cards of All Time.
Okay.
And it's basically a list of the biggest cards, the biggest dollars. And the list, we're trying to keep it to every card that has sold for $1 million or more. So this particular card, Logan Paul purchased it, I believe, for $5.3 million. And I think it was, oh man, I'm gonna get the year wrong. Give or take 2021, 2022.
Okay.
And the cool part in the story is we give the write up. We talk about Logan Paul. We talk about his wrestling, he wore it during his WrestleMania debut, all that good
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But then we also made a note about, insiders believe that with the dramatic rise in the popularity of Pokemon, many insiders believe that this card may have doubled or tripled in value. And tripled is pretty much right on the money, which is pretty crazy. And that was a wild night, that if you're following on social media, it was nuts. Golden did a great job live streaming. Um, yeah, it was crazy. And I know there's lots of positives and negative, and there's conspiracy theorists about different things, but holy cow, it's, to have that kind of a transaction take place for is just that's just fascinating, to
Yeah.
have cards in the mainstream like that.
Wow. Just absolutely incredible to kind of see how that goes down and just to see the numbers and just watching it climb, like just absolutely wild. And so we'll wait to see what the next adventure is. But there you
I
go.
was
There's
texting you that night, wasn't I? Wasn't
yeah,
I giving you
yeah, yeah,
updates? Yeah,
yeah,
live
yeah, yeah. I think you
updates.
had three bottles of wine and you look at
Sure.
this, look at Pikachu. he's he's worth a mint. I mean, yeah, I mean it's wild. So okay, some other news going on. Look, Stanley Cup PSA 2 from 1924-25 Champ cigarettes going for what? $27,000 on an auction. I mean, this is up. This is doubled in a year.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So this card is the first appearance of the Stanley Cup. So where the Stanley Cup has its own card.
Mhm.
I believe the Stanley Cup was first donated, I want to say in 1893, something like that,
Yeah,
1892. So this was the
by Lord
first,
Grey.
Yeah, that's right.
Or Lord Stanley, excuse me. Sorry, I was thinking of
Good
the
Lord
great.
Stanley. Yeah,
Got to get
Grey Cup. That'll be
confused.
another
The Grey
episode.
Cup. Yeah, there's another story there. Yeah. But yeah, Lord Stanley. I actually did a story with one of the family members of the Lord Stanley family in England when the
Oh,
NHL
excellent.
played their first ever European regular season game. That was
Hmm.
between the Kings and Ducks. So you had the Battle of SoCal
Mm.
in at the O2 Arena in London back in
In London.
2007. And that week
Sounds
leading
weird.
up, we went down and we lined up a story with the family. Of course, like they had never seen an NHL game, and I think they were busy, so I don't even think they were going to that game. But but in terms of the family lineage of their
That's awesome.
connection to providing what is arguably the sexiest. I look. I think the Stanley Cup over and above and beyond every other trophy. Like that's the one. Now it didn't
It
look like
is.
that when it was first donated, but
Right. Right.
it's special. It's got some stories. I don't know if it was treated with as much TLC with some of the stories that you hear about guys kicking it into the canal back in the
Hmm.
1920s when the Ottawa Senators were actually winning Stanley Cups. But here we go. The first Stanley Cup card has its own
Yeah.
story here.
Yeah. So it's like you mentioned from 1924. Champs Cigarettes is the manufacturer, and it was sold through an auction house in Ontario, not far from Guelph, Miller and Miller Auctions.
Okay.
And the previous sale for a card of that grade and a PSA 2 was on Fanatics Collect. And I'm not sure if it was a buy now or an auction, but the final price was 12,000 US only a year ago. I think it was early, a year and a bit anyway. And yeah, this one goes up for auction in a Canadian auction house and basically close to doubles, and which is great, which tells you a lot about
Yep.
what that symbol means. Like it's a card of a piece of metal. It's a
It's a
card
trophy.
of a
It's a picture of a
trophy.
trophy. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's incredible. And funny enough, Lord Stanley has a rookie card, and this was before he donated the Stanley Cup. I want to say the set was 1889 Allen and Ginter World Sovereigns. He
Hmm.
is the Governor General of Canada, and he had a card in the set. So this was, I guess, 2 or 3 years before he donated the Stanley Cup. He had a card. Nobody cared who he was at the time, but now that card is an absolute monster in
Gem.
hockey circles,
Ah.
and it's not a hockey card, right? It's
No.
a non-sport, historical figures type card, world sovereigns. And when that thing comes up for auction once in a while, it really shakes things up. And it goes to show like just the symbol of the Stanley Cup means so much to people. And it's just cool. It's just a cool auction, a cool piece of collecting history. And yeah, happy for the buyer, happy for the auction house, and really cool sale.
That is wild. That is wild. And I think there was it was 1905 that the Stanley Cup, the Ottawa Silver Sevens celebrated, and during a victory party, clearly there was a heavy amount of alcohol involved, which things happen in these
Things
instances,
happen.
and as the story goes, some of the winners were stumbling home and alongside the Rideau Canal, which was still very cold, and they're walking with Lord Stanley's mug and decided to somebody tried to drop kick it into the canal. So I mean, there you go, and that was
Right.
20 years before the OG Stanley Cup card, and here we are now talking about a card that is going for $27,000, and that's for a low grade, right? Like that's we're talking about
Yeah,
two,
a
right? So
PSA 2, right? I think the highest grade for that card, I believe there's a 5 or a 6.
wow.
And yeah, again, it just talks about just what that symbol means to people.
But you think about who, like, for somebody to be that detailed, to be meticulous about thinking about looking at a picture of a trope, like a piece of metal, right? Like
Hmm.
how you would have
Hmm.
really had to have somebody who had the long game
Yep. Long
to,
game in
to
mind. Yeah.
see, you know, oh, my great great grandfather left me nothing but this darn piece of cardboard with a trophy on it. Well, wouldn't you know?
There you go.
Okay, a couple other things I want to hit on before we wrap up this first episode. The CFL, they're going digital right now with kind of a neat story. We've got a great story on the website. I kind of mentioned it just earlier on the outset, but in terms of classic CFL, Canadian Football League cards that are out there, there's a couple of classics, some neat stories, including the late great Carl Weathers. That is a mysterious card to
Oh,
find. You're
that's
talking
awesome.
about some grails and some royalty. But the CFL's got a new set via e-pack here, Fab, but also it's an e-pack, but at the same time, some physical copies too.
Yeah. So the set is 2025 Upper Deck SP Game Used. And basically the Game Used brand, SP Game Used, is typically known for having a Game Used memorabilia card in every pack. And so Upper Deck is offering the product as an e-pack only. So this is a web-based marketplace that Upper Deck created in 2015, and it gives them the flexibility to do a bunch of different things, to issue small runs of products, to do, short window products that are available for just a small amount of time. And so this particular set is available on ePack. So people, they sign up at the ePack website and they digitally open the packs, but the cards are physical. The cards that you see, there is a physical copy of that card.
Hmm.
So over the course of time, if you've opened up half a dozen packs, they're in your ePack account, but you can have those actual cards mailed to you at any time. And so it's a unique way to collect. And again, it allows Upper Deck to do some really interesting things, have some sometimes e-pack exclusive cards where,
Okay.
let's say, for instance, Upper Deck Series 1, right? The flagship Upper Deck hockey product that everywhere. People find it everywhere looking for their young guns. And what Upper Deck could do in a situation like this with e-pack is they have specific inserts that are only available through e-pack. So
Hmm.
it just gives them a opportunity to do different things, and it's an easy way. You don't have to leave the house, and you can still get your fix of opening packs and hopefully hit a nice Macklin Celebrini Young Guns card. That, gosh, this guy is
Hey,
amazing.
while we have a moment on that, where's that card trending right now?
Okay, so we reported on it in our newsletter about a month ago that they had jumped up to $900 to $1,000 for a gem mint copy for a PSA 10. Um, and in the span of about 3 to 4 weeks, they're creeping up on $1,700, $1,800 in a few weeks. And it's
Wow.
not a rare card. I believe the current population just for PSA 10s, I think, is like 1,500 copies. But it goes to show he is Mr. Everything right now. And I mean, look the way he's playing, like he's one of the big boys. Like, it's amazing for a 19-year-old who was eligible to play in the World Juniors this year to do what he's doing. He's the darling of collecting right now in hockey. It's really cool to see.
Pretty special. Absolutely. And just how good a 19-year-old, like the spotlight isn't bright enough for this
Mhm.
kid, the way he's been shining through these winter games. Okay, final story I want to hit on this week. But Superman, the first issue, not Action Comics one from 1938, but we're looking at Superman number one from 1940. Another low grade going for a nice healthy chunk of change for
Uh,
$10,000. And this is again, the meter continues to move here.
yeah, we're talking about non-sport and entertainment cards, and that particular card is truly the head of the snake. Like, that is the card that people look to. If you have your Mount Rushmore of non-sport entertainment cards, that card is on there. So that's 1940 Gum Ink Superman set.
Mm.
So the full set it's all cards of Superman, but it's card number one that is seen as the Superman rookie. And I know
And
non
who's selling these at the time?
at the time, so the
This isn't a
company that
cigarette, but this isn't a cigarette company that's
it's
pumping this out.
Gum Ink.
Gum
So
Inc.
we got,
Okay.
yeah, in the 40s we got out of
Yeah.
the tobacco era,
Yep.
and then we were in the bubblegum era.
Okay.
And Gum Inc. made all kinds of really cool sets, a lot of entertainment properties. They were in and out of sports. But so this particular card number one, uh, being, let's say, the first appearance of Superman on a trading card, to borrow a term from comic books, is the card people look for. And so a card in this grade, this was a PSA 2.
Okay.
And over the last few months, this card it comes up for sale. Very rarely in higher, even mid grade. It's typically, authentics, ones, twos, sometimes threes. But PSA twos were selling in the range of 3,500 to 4,500
Okay.
for weeks and months ahead of time. And for whatever reason, well, I think we know the reason, but this one jumped. They got a bidding frenzy, and it jumped over $10,000 US. But the thing to keep in mind is this was right after those two monstrous comic book sales, the CGC 9. So his first comic is Action Comics number one.
Yep.
This one was graded the CGC 9, the highest grade. This comic book was actually owned by, I forget his name again. Not Nick Nolte, Nicholas Coppola. Nick, come
Francis
on.
Ford's son? No.
Uh,
Oh, no,
yeah,
not Nick Cage. Not Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
Diehard Superman
there you
fan.
go.
Yeah.
Right. He owned this comic. This comic was stolen from his home. Several years later, it was recovered, and
Mm-hmm.
it's this exact same comic book that went up for auction and sold for $15 million. So, right, like that just is a whole new level for that comic. And of course, there's a trickle down effect to trading cards. And we saw it. I mean, dramatic to have a PSA 2 go from essentially $4,000 to $10,000 in a matter of weeks. That's what happens in collectibles, right? People when people get priced out of one item, they look to the next best thing or whatever. That's kind of the way it goes.
Well, needless to say, a wild, a turbulent, a volatile, a record breaking week in the collectibles and the hobby industry. And you know what? What a way to kick off the party here on the GRADEx Show on Earth. Be sure for more information. And if you want to follow along, you can follow us in podcast form on Apple and Spotify. And also, you can find us on X, on Instagram as well, at GRADEx Media. Anything you want to put a bow on this week? I mean, we've only just begun.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff.
Even
This
singing.
was a little singing. Yeah, this was a big week, and this was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you, man. I'm excited about this. I think we're gonna do some good stuff, and I know at the very least we're gonna have a good time, and I hope that comes through to people because that's what collecting's all about, right? I got acquiring fun stuff, having a good time with friends and community, and that's the real deal.
I mean, it's amazing that it has kept us connected for 4 decades, and here we are, which really makes us feel old. I guess sounds old, but
Yeah,
we're young at heart. And
we
I
sure
think
are.
back to host of the talk show back in Toronto, going back about 15 years ago, and you were one of the first to reach out and to offer support. You donated a couple of cases of the NHL icebreaker game, and so we could give away to listeners as well. So
Yeah.
I'm never forget that. And so, man, it's fun to be doing this all over
Nah,
again.
you're
So
awesome, dude. It's
it's a two-way street, buddy.
you're a
Look
pro.
at
There's
us.
no doubt.
Let's pull the Barry Horowitz and pat each other on the back here.
and
Eh?
hug it
Eh?
out here. All right.
Exactly. Hug it out. Exactly. All right. He is Professor Fab. I'm Cybulski, and we will talk to you next week right here on the GRADEx Show on Earth. See ya.